you have any parking spot or up on?
No, I know with the, when we placed the first charging stations in the Third Street parking lot, it was viewed as SC would run it as a trial to see how much use it had, and they would use that information to help them to determine a fee structure for future charging stations. And there's also, in terms of where to place them, there's some practicality as, is there a power service available in the spot, or would it be, involve adding a great, at the expense of adding more power supply to a place that doesn't currently have it. So some of it's practical in that sense, and some of it is where the need is, and we're trying to spread them around town.
Mr. Smith?
I believe PAC and the planning commission were working on this with MSC, and I thought the idea was that they would come in with an overall plan. I don't know how many charging stations do we have?
8.
8.
Yeah, I think there's 8. 2 are installed.
Yeah,
So we're down to 6.
so it's down to 6. And so I thought we'd have kind of an overall plan to look at rather than looking at one. And the one, I spoke to you over the phone. I don't know who would use the one where you're suggesting. That's a long walk for a visitor to downtown, if that's who you're targeting. And even for residents, I don't know anybody in that area who's going to want to leave their car down there and walk home and then walk down there again. If we could find more convenient spots.
Yep.
for clusters of residents. That,
Yes.
like we talked about Chestnut Street.
Right, that's what you're talking about right now, right?
That's one.
Right.
But you're talking about the one by Perry Tuttle.
Correct.
The bus parking lot.
No, Pizza History,
Oh, Pizza History.
where
Yeah.
our parking lot next to the property, the Gamma Border Zone,
Oh, okay.
where Pizza History is.
Well, even then, that's the same issue. You've got to dodge traffic to get to and from there. So who's going to go down there?
Well, okay, the question is, actually, a lot of people will. Because the mayor can correct me, because I didn't know this about electric cars until my nephew drove his to Maine. They basically tell you where the chargers are. So wherever you put a charger, that car is going to find that charger. So hopefully, if people are traveling 13, traveling 95, there's Wawa and then us. No other cities putting them in right now. Nobody's really jumping on that. So people are going to come and put them in. And to walk 2 blocks downtown, or 3 blocks, I don't think it's that far. You walk to the library, you're there.
Again, I keep saying that our visitors track older. They track like me.
Yeah, but if that's the case, we're not gonna have any visitors in 5 years or 10 years, because they'll all be gone. I mean, we gotta look at everybody. I mean, the demographics for an electric car is somebody that's college educated, mid-50s, and they make a pretty good amount of money.
Okay.
That's the demographics for an electric car, right?
But what you're talking about now, that's kind of a stop walk.
Correct.
That's not a neighborhood. That's
Well,
somebody can't. But I've heard different estimates about how long it takes to charge a car. Is somebody going to leave their car there for 8 hours, or is it 15? Or Mr. Mayor, you can tell us what.
It's 4 hours, I think.
So, first of all, 95 to 99% charging stations that are publicly out there. Level 1 charger is a household plug. That's 2.5 days worth of being plugged in for my car. So that's known by owners as granny cable. Sorry for any grandmas. And nobody uses it. Level 2 chargers are what the city has. Most cars, mine included, from about, if your level of charge is supposed to kind of once you get below 20%, which is like being under a quarter of a tank of gas, it's advised to go ahead and charge up to 80% or more. That charger and battery park, a level 2 charger, my car can go to from 20% to 80% in 6 hours. So what's the theory in most municipalities? You put them where you have employees who are typically working 8 hours a day, residents that don't have off-street parking, and visitors. So the locations in the new parking lot make a lot of sense. But we also have a number of residents scattered about the community that don't have off-street parking. Shawtown, other parts of downtown, and a few other pockets, places where people just don't have a garage or a driveway. So we have to think about, not in every instance that he's going to be particularly located because it has a visitor issue. For example, Plaza said, gee, we'd like to have something here. Well, you're not going there for 6 or 8 hours. That would be a level 3 charger. That's what you see at some of the Wawas and along interstates. You know, that's a 20-minute or 40-minute boost, and you're up to where you need to be. Those are very expensive. The cables are pretty thick. So these are level 2s. It makes sense, I think, to dot them around the community, especially in neighborhoods where we have residents that don't have off-street parking. You've got the people at the condos, you got people up and down Delaware Street. You do have other streets, 5th, 6th, where people maybe won't go to the park, or maybe those will be used by visitors as well. So I think spreading is about it.
In talking about this particular, the chargers we have are double-headed chargers. So wherever we put one, we have 2 spots.
Correct.
So looking here, and I was trying to recall back about the handicap spots were, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, initially put in for the salons.
They were just places we didn't have, the city itself had no parking.
Okay,
handicap parking.
so we have.
The salon has a handicap parking.
Okay, so there are actually 1, 2, 3, 4 spots here.
Right.
So we put in a charging station here, which is good for the employee over in Riverton, 5th Street, 6th Street. That's a relatively safe, visible, well-lit area where somebody could plug in. And we're taking up 2 of those 4 spots. So we have 2 on the end that are not marked handicap, and then we have 2 handicap. So are we gonna take away one of the handicap?
I would go handicap because I drive past it every day, 2-3 times a day. And I've never seen a car that was handicapped legally there.
You need to get out of the city.
Well, we don't, but in fact, that building is going to open sometime.
They have their own parking spot.
They have their own parking.
That's a city lot. That has nothing to do with that building. That is a city lot. And they've got,
Why do we have handicap parking down along?
because we didn't have anything there and that was just put out there.
No, he's talking about.
What I'm
other
saying
places.
is, we have kind of general handicap parking for other businesses.
If they request it. Like across the street requested a handicap parking spot, and we approved it, this body approved it. So we approved for that. If
Was it for that business?
yeah, because it's on Delaware Street.
It's not limited
It's
to
not
that.
limited to that business, it's a handicap spot.
But because that business has a high number of older
I'm
clients.
just saying, there'll be more demand because we'll have another business. So we would, I'm saying we could take it down to 1, but I wouldn't.
You're gonna have to take both out because the charger's gonna be there.
But do we have
One
to
charger's
put
gonna
2
do it.
chargers there?
No,
Because
one
one-
charger.
The
I'm saying.
proposal is to put 1 2-headed charger.
Right, right.
Correct.
I thought it was 2.
Correct.
Oh, we that's.
So you have 4 spots. So where the car in the picture is currently sitting and the one next to it are regular open spots where a double-headed EV charger could go.
Right, correct.
And whether or not you leave the remaining 2 handicap is probably not part of this resolution.
No, it is part of this resolution.
Why?
Because they're not needed, nobody uses them. Nobody has used them.
I would take, we could take 1 out, but
Spots were put in there because the other one was being occupied unnecessarily. Remember, that doesn't happen anymore. Don't need.
Oh, yeah.
I was just wondering from a code standpoint, do you have a city-owned parking lot not provide handicap parking in? I mean, I wouldn't think so.
We do. Shut down.
Point an existing parking lot. Now you're gonna take a parking lot that has handicap spots and reduce the accessibility in.
Joe, I'm gonna say yes, that Mr. Wasco can answer that. Nobody said those parking spots have never been used.
But that's an opinion.
No,
I wanna know.
I'd have to check. I don't know the city itself, but first of all, this has never had parking, handicap parking spaces until council ordained such a couple of years ago. So it had been a pre-existing lot without handicap parking, and that would have been permitted to continue. Now that you put it in, I'd have to double check the code to see if there's some requirement that the city itself has to maintain a certain number of parking spaces that are handicap designated. When you're dealing with a small lot like this with only 4 spaces, that may not be required.
And if that business is, well, it's not Pizza History now. Like Chicken Place, they have a number of spots in front, and I guess if they wanted to designate one, handicap, they could, because they have more than 4.
and if anything by code, they would have to, because where they put the new tobacco shop in, they had to designate 1/3 spots.
There's 3.
Of the 3, right, 1/3 of everything.
I might also point out, long before any of us got here, for whatever reason, the city's never really been in the parking business. Look at most of the parking lots around the city, are on trustee property. There's very little, a lot shot down. The one right here that we're talking about. A lot of the other places, kind of sports, the parking lot, and post office, library, our city lots.
If you take the history of that parking lot, if you take the history of that parking lot, Gamble Gordis used to run not a used car, a rental car business out there. Out of that building, yes. And if you remember when we did all this, it used to be 2-hour parking with 4-hour parking. Attention that we couldn't time people, we couldn't do different things. And we said, okay, we're gonna make it just open parking for residents or city people, whoever visiting. Maybe there should be some handicap parking spots there, just to eliminate people parking there constantly. That's why we put it.
I'm just saying, Mr. President, it's hard to imagine that we're going to sit here with a city lot and advocate that a city lot does not have one accessible parking lot in it. Whether it's 4 parking spaces or 10, we're taking a city asset and we're making it less accessible. That to me just does not sound right, but that's my opinion.
And use has never been a consideration. You don't look at the plan of the city admin building and say, I'm never.
So why don't we go ahead and you've got the double-headed charger, you've got the 2 open spots there, and they're on this end. And we remove 1 handicap spot and leave 1 there.
That's why the thing was left open.
No, so the
Right.
2, the electric on the 2, and we'll take the 1 next to the electric out and leave the 1 on the
Right, so-
end.
So looking at it from Ferry Cutoff, first parking spot will be handicapped,
Yeah.
2 in the middle will be,
No, 2 on the end, there's 4 spots there.
well, if they're not, I don't know if they're paved or not. I would do 1, 2, 3.
Well, you have to have 2 spots.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Phil, do you,
Valerie, look.
Phil, do you know if that last spot and looking at the picture, is that paved or is that, I see a curve there.
I think it's.
Semi-paved?
So, yes. I think the end of it is grass.
I would do handicap, even, and then pork.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I just can't tell if that last one is paved or not.
I'm sorry.
He's gonna be-
Handicap here.
Yeah,
Charge.
handicap charge.
Charge, and then regular. open spot.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Gillespie.
So I would just remind Councilman Day, is a handicap spot directly across the street from our location.
Mr. Day makes a valid point, like, once the fire department provides a service, a steady service, they can't back down. he makes it out, whether it's in our code or not, that's different.
I did see it in the code, the cursory review,
Right.
maybe something in state law, Jeff. do you
Let's just take one handicap parking spot out.
It's federal law.
Take one handicap parking spot out, the two next to it will be EV charging.
Okay, and looking at this picture, I'm just showing, you know, it almost looks like there's 5 spots there, but one of them is, it's kind of, well, there's a line.
No, that's,
So, but there is technically 5 there, I think. There's, and then there's a kind of, yeah, the last one. Again, I would have to drive by and really look at it. Mr. Martel, do you see what I see?
Yeah, the grass is kind of growing out in one of them.
So we'll just do the
Close to the highway as
handicap,
possible.
the
That's what I'm
2
trying to say.
EVs. Okay, so the handicap, the 2 EVs, and let's take a look at how
3
we,
parking spots there.
we have those 3, and then let's see if those last 2, does it kind of look like they're 2? If maybe that can be cleaned up such that we actually have 2 open spots.
So are we saying one double-headed charger? or-
Correct, one
So
double-headed
2
charger.
spots. Okay.
Correct.
So you've got a handicap, 2 spots for the charger, and then you have then we'll have 1 open, but it kind of looks like if we clean that up a little bit, you'd have a second open parking spot at 45.
So we're down to 1 handicap parking spot
Mhm.
and 1 charger for 2 parking spaces.
And one open space.
And then, well, there'll be 3 open spaces.
So
Or,
There's only 4 official parking.
right,
I would like to see if that 5th grassy slash one can be cleaned up.
okay. And then, and while we're still on this subject, we gotta start thinking of where we're putting these things. Because they're getting dated, just sitting there. The longer we let them sit, the faster it gets.
So for the next meeting.
Well, I think we can get a recommendation overall from
Yeah, that's fine.
PAC and the planning commission and
And that's-
MSC for us to deal with all of them.
Planning's had their recommendations out.
I haven't seen.
You can't have David in.
Planning's had theirs out.
I haven't, well, let's see it. Oh, it went out where?
All right, so let's, and
Your
for
Honor?
time's sake and efficiency, let's make the decision on this one, and then for the
Put it-
January 8th meeting,
Fair enough.
review the planning if it was done, and have MSC come with their recommendation.
Right, and then, and the reason that lot was so perfect, MSC is looking at infrastructure.
Mhm.
Wherever they can run a line anywhere.
Right, but this
So
already
for
has.
them to do it
existing.
directly,
Yeah.
it saves them money.
Okay.
There will be eventual charges. So the last paragraph would be, now therefore is here resolved by the city council that effective immediately, the number of parking spots reserved for handicapped persons at the public parking lot at lot intersection of Ferry Cutoff and Delaware Street, the parking lot, shall be 1.
Right.
And therefore, let it be further resolved that city council approves the installation of 1 electric charging station at the parking lot, which should generally be available for public use.
Okay.
Motion to
Understood.
accept it as amended,
Oh, so
Motion to amend first.
motion to amend,
so moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept the amended resolution,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Okay.
Even with the rest of the project, this isn't the end.
Oh, no, we got 6 more decisions to make.
Oh, no, I mean, even after that, this is something that we're gonna have
It's
to
on.
deal with and make policy on for a long time.
Correct.
This is-
Correct.
This is the beginning.
You're right, it's even just who can park there or not, because if there's a gas powered car parked there,
I gather we need some signage at all the, on all of the chargers, including the one in the Third Street lot, that is not a parking place. it as a charging space.
There are,
That's gonna be a tough one to argue.
there are
Just saying.
But if we
there are
don't-
standard signs already.
If we don't have a sign, obviously we have no leg to
Gotta
stand
get
on.
that 20%.
Chief, is this something we need to create an ordinance or something for that, these parking?
That's-
So I would say, I don't know if I mean, you can create an ordinance, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I know at some point we were talking about trying to move all the parking stuff into the ordinance code, so different levels of enforcement. But for right now, a sign could be enforced with the state law. You know,
Okay.
park where signs prohibit. So we would enforce that only. You know, we would not enforce if the car was 12 hours overcharging. That's not something we're going to get in the middle of.
But if a gas powered car is
If the
there.
gas powered car is there and there's a sign
Then
that
the
says,
other issue is that what you went through where, once you were. It hit you.
probably worse than a ticket.
Mr. President, I am working on a memorandum that will give you a summary of some of the considerations for an ordinance for regulating the EV stations, like the subject of parking there improperly or overstaying your welcome, so to speak. So I'll have some information for you that hopefully by the
Because technically, they're not parking spots, they're charging spots.
Right.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is resolution 2021-34, resolution appointing Judith Baldini to the Tree Advisory Commission.
So moved.
Whereas the city of Newcastle, start again. Whereas the Newcastle City Council passed an ordinance 500 to amend and restate chapter 74 relating to the tree commission and chapter 210 of the code of the city of Newcastle relating to the tree commission, creating a tree advisory commission. And whereas according to 74-1 of the code, the tree advisory commission shall consist of 5 members, each serving a 3-year term. 2 members shall be appointed by the mayor of Newcastle and confirmed by city council. 3 members shall be appointed by city council. And whereas members shall be selected on basis of education, experience, demonstration of interest in the related field. Members need not be city residents. Whereas there is currently 1 expired position on the tree advisory commission. Now, therefore, be it resolved, city council hereby approves the reappointment of Judith Baldini to serve on the tree advisory commission with a term ending on December 11, 2024. 2024.
Right, sorry. my bad.
Judith Baldini, council appointed, term ending December 11, 2024.
David, do you want to speak in her stead or not? Did she give you anything to say?
Mark Mann.
He does appreciate the confidence of the council.
No.
I'm just saying, no conflict of interest.
Nope. I wouldn't see one. Let's go.
I'm just
The tree committee?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I suppose there might be a situation that comes up where all the tree is in question and perhaps she might have to recuse herself, but that seems pretty remote.
There's no trees in front of her.
Okay.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, lastly, comments from the floor on any issues?
Yes, Bill Gross, 13th Street. I guess the subject of the municipal campus is back on its way. I just pray and hope the council takes into account, doesn't disregard the taxpayers' opinions. As I know myself and many residents, including the new Civic Association, Newcastle Matters, is going to make sure to voice their opinion.
Excuse me, what organization? I just never heard of that. Just kind of
Oh.
curious.
Yeah, Newcastle Matters.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, you click on it, it goes to a website that supposedly points out all of the corruption and stuff within the city of Newcastle.
We are corrupt though,
Mhm.
and not transparent.
Oh, it's transparent,
You're transparent.
very much so.
You have to tell us to take your time to learn it.
Yeah, I guess riding around without a job.
Now I have a job.
Yeah.
What about your time?
Anyway, I want
Mr.
to,
Sir?
I want to thank everyone, including the firehouse and the Lions Club for putting on a excellent event, one of the best ever, including the Spirit of Christmas. I gotta say, I hear a lot of people's opinions that it was just a really warm, inviting event. And that and the pancake breakfast and other events are really good for community unity. And lastly, I want to thank Councilman Day for continuing to push for broadcasting the meetings, as that is a big part of transparency. And I've been pushing for it for over 7 months. So thank you, Councilman Day, for advocating for that. And I wish everyone a happy, healthy, and safe holiday and a successful and safe 2022.
You're walking like I am.
But we can move the podium over for you.
So could you, now you tell me that I'm up here. Bill Emery from Ball. I've got like 5 items to talk about, but I only got 3 minutes, right? That's one of the things, and I'll save that for last. The flashing light are, and stop and go at 6th and Delaware. There's one thing about that. If we decide to stay with that, and I hate saying this, I love the flashing red and stop sign. But the thing is, I said, part of that, I said, I like the flashing red. I think if we stay that way, we need to keep a flashing red, even if it's just a single bulb light. Because way down the road, you still see that optical of the flashing red, and it gives you that optical way before you're anywhere near that intersection, and it lets you know that you're coming to a stop in all 4 directions. So I'm a big fan of whatever we do there, but keeping a light there of some fashion, okay? Second, our new stop sign at 3rd and Delaware. I'm drinking coffee at the cafe there 3-4 days a morning, every morning out of 5 work days of the week. Watching, I don't know how many people run that stop sign. One good thing I think there, I did mention it to Russ one morning, is I hate to say it because I hate anything on the street, is to literally paint the word stop in front of the solid white line that we got on the road there. Literally just paint the word stop. That because sometimes there's delivery trucks that will park there, or even construction trucks that block the stop sign, and people, and sometimes just don't even see the sign. But if you put the word stop on the road, they'll see the word. I know I see it in other places in developments and things. I mean, I hate seeing something like that on the road, but it may help, just an idea. The wharf railing, I brought it up a couple months ago about the railing and the problem that we're getting with the vertical posts down there. I recently took another walk back down there. One of you guys approached me recently, and it's gotten bad, and it's getting bad, guys, down there. It's not just the fact that the holes have sunken as far as the fill-in goes, the epoxy fill-in, but the posts, a lot of the posts, they're just beyond repair. We're at the point where you're going to have to just replace posts there. So again, I just am here to reiterate and get it drilled into your ears. Something's going to have to be done as far as repairing that railing down there on the wharf. I'm afraid it's going to, the longer you wait, it's just gonna get more and more expensive. Question I have, you guys have been talking about these charging stations. When a person uses these charging stations, do they become a parking spot?
No,
Or when you're done charging, do you have to get out of there? Okay,
if you remember last month's meeting, the mayor explained, it's technically a charging station. If you stay over your allotted time, once your battery's charged, it knows, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, it knows that your battery is charged. And after, say, 10 minutes, knowing your battery's charged or whatever the time limit is, it starts doubling your charge.
so you're gonna
So,
keep paying.
so instead of saying, let's say $5 a kilowatt hour, you start paying $15 a kilowatt hour. So it pays you to get. They are not, if any reading you do on them, they are not parking spots. They are charging stations.
Okay, yeah, because I'd hate to see them used that way, and somebody who could use it next, waiting in line, never get that opportunity.
And I think that's why they assess that penalty
Right, okay.
to
cool.
you on that one.
And then,
I use some of your time, you got another minute.
yeah, then, well,
I use
my last one was,
one.
I think it's a shame that we are only allowed in 3 minutes sometimes, all the time. Because like a lot of times, probably even me being probably the worst one, comes up with a list of 5 or 6 items, always wants to talk about something.
You want to talk about everything.
It's hard to keep things under a minute per item, so I always try my best.
Some
But-
councils have 2 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Newark is 2 minutes. And something, and honestly, if it's a good discussion, if you remember last month, we had Mr. White from Second Street. And he actually was making a lot of good points and the discretion to extend the time.
Yeah, so it was just something I wanted to.
I thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Mayor.
very much, and Merry Christmas. sir.
Merry Christmas, sir.
I make a motion to adjourn. Oh,
Hand it up, sorry.
that's what you want to say.
3 minutes.
Yeah, Rob Miller, East Speaks. Yeah, I wanted to just comment about speeding on East Third, that we've been talking about ad nauseum for quite some time. But there was something brought up at that DelDOT meeting last month that I hadn't heard before. Hopefully, one of you can give a better explanation of this, what they're working on there coming off of 9th Street when you're talking about that, what do they call it, the Dutch turn or something?
Right.
Okay, I want to hear a little bit more about that because hopefully there's something in that can maybe change my mind. Hopefully there's something in incentivize, people from cutting through like they do. We've had a couple of incidences in the last few weeks. I think my neighbor, I saw the police outside a couple weeks ago at night, and I think my neighbor, got hit. I don't know if his mirror got hit. I don't know all the details on it. And, I had kind of an ugly incident with somebody speeding a few weeks ago. Who had some words to say to me for me just simply going like this when they were zooming down like 40 miles an hour. So anyway, I got to thinking about some things that my neighbor was saying last month, that he brought up some things that I've brought up before. A couple of years ago, I think I sent a long email. I don't know how many of you were on the council at that point, but one being changing the one way of East Third to one way the opposite way, changing the idea of speed bumps and the idea of increased signage and the idea of increased police presence. And I know they all have their issues there, but after things that have gone on recently, I have kind of changed my attitude. I'm no longer on the fence about speed bumps. Okay, I'm now pro speed bumps. All right, unless it can somehow be figured out to change one way the opposite way, or if you can explain to me what this new turn will do, and if there's any way that could, because of whatever you have to go through to make that turn, if that's going to maybe make people think twice about, hey, that's just not really saving me time anymore. Not that it does anyway. I still never understand why people, take that route. And the same people that are running that stop sign on, on 3rd and Delaware are the same people that are zooming down east. And I presume from there, they just zoom down West 3rd, which is even more ridiculous, considering how narrow, West 3rd is. But anyway, like I said, I just, because of things that have happened recently, I've got a little more angry and I've changed my attitude I'm not on the fence about some of these things any longer. But hopefully you can change my mind back and maybe some of you can just give paint a little mental picture about what is proposed here, with this new left turn. And is that in any way going to make people think twice?
See me after meeting, I'll show you what they're talking about, and I'm glad you reminded me, can I jump in real quick, Russell? We did receive a letter from a couple on Third Street, and talking about reversing the direction, that's a traffic study. I think that's where you need traffic engineers to come in and take a look at the entire picture. I know, MAPCO's working on the outside areas, but there's nothing planned for inside the city, is there, Mr. Barthel?
Not in regard to looking at that.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and that's, and you do that, you put the traffic on Second Street, or you put it on Fifth Street, or, it's one of those things, but see me after meeting, and I'll explain that, last.
Again, I'm not talking about it from the aspect of people using it as a cut through. I don't think they're going down to Second as a cut through. I don't think they're going anywhere else because it would take them even more out of their way. And I'm probably, I don't know, maybe people are gonna, now that there's no longer a light at the 6th and Delaware, maybe they're gonna catch on to that and say, hey, I'm not saving any time, let's just go down 6th Street. I don't know what's gonna happen.
I just want to mention that doesn't intended to address that and really doesn't address it in any way. We asked the Will Mapco and the contractor to address Third Street on quite a few with ideas or any suggestions at all. That's been one very disappointing problem with the transportation plan. We talked about cut-through traffic, and I don't think they understood what we meant. I don't know whether we didn't say it loud enough, but they didn't address it.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.